Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel if this is your first time. This is a book review of a book I've just finished. So I've got a very short amount of time to do this because I'm about to get picked up to go off somewhere and sing for 2 hours. But if I do it now, I've just finished the book, so it'll be fresh in my mind. And I thought this would be better than writing a few notes, coming back to it, and then just trying to remember how I felt. So I'm doing this now, without notes, kind of on the fly. I hope I include everything I wanted to say about it. I tried this once before and then ended up just using that first one as a draft and then did it again. So who knows? But anyway, this is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. And this is the first book I've read by her. I've got Earthlings as well. And I wanted to read this because it's a nice reason to give a little nod to the Shorty September event, which I'll link below. And I think it's a fantastic event. So I'm not, because I'm reading two fairly big books, I'm not committing too much to it, but I'm dipping into these other books in between. Hopefully, that's the plan. So I wanted to read this, and I had this a while, and I'm so glad I did. I think it's really, really interesting book. It's a very good book, but it's just really quite a unique book as well, I'd say. So Keiko, I think, is the character's name, the main character, and she works in a convenience store. She has developed an affinity with the convenience store in a way that she feels part of the store. The first chapter talks about how the sounds of the convenience store are very specific. And I could really relate to that because I worked in shops for many, many years. I worked in record shops for 15 years. And then while I was studying, getting my degree late as a mature student, and then also when I started part-time teaching as well, I worked in Blackwell's bookshop as well for 6 years. So I've done a lot of retail work, and I could relate to a lot of this. It's interesting because there seems to be a fondness in some of the translated Japanese fiction that's come over here for books about bookshops. They've had lots of publicity, and you've got the Ms. Nakano's thrift shop by Kawakami, and I've talked about Hiromi Kawakami a lot on the channel. I think she's wonderful, and the thrift shop book I really, really liked a lot. And again, it gave me a real vibe about when I worked in the record shop, and it made me want to write something about that. Well, I have wanted to write something about that for a while, but I haven't been able to nail it down. And this did it again. This book did it again, like the beginning, but before the plot really properly kicks in, and it's more about her affinity with the shop. I kept get reminded that I need to write that story or novel or something about my years in the record shops. I'd love to do it, and I really have a lot of affection for those days. Even though, I mean, the only reason why I changed careers was because we were literally buying groceries on the credit card because we had so little money, and there's not a lot of money in retail. That was even when I was managing the shop as well, because I managed the shop for 4 years. But that was definitely something I could relate to in this. The love that the character has for the shop itself, and the way that it's described as far as when everyone's got the uniform on, they become kind of anonymous and they're just part of the store. I thought that was brilliant. So there's lots of that stuff going on. But that's the backdrop to something much bigger. And just before I talk about that aspect of it, the bigger picture, I just want to say that the way it's written is really cool. It's a very subtle comedy. It's not laugh out loud comedy. It makes you smile quite often. And her turn of phrase is really nice. When I first started reading it, it reminded me a little, well, the beginning reminded me a little bit of Amelie, the beginning of Amelie. And I thought, oh, is that what this is going to be like? This is going to be this sort of quirky person that's a little bit different, looking at the world in a different kind of way. There is a little bit of aspect of that, but that's not really what's happening in the book. So that was a little bit of a distraction because it's not really like Amelie at all. But it does have that quirkiness about it, and it does have this utterly endearing character at the center of it, who you are rooting for all the way through the book, even though she's got this innocence to her, and she's asking kind of questions to her family and to her friends and to her fellow workers and to what becomes the main male character in the book, questions that are unusual questions, that are very innocent questions, as if she's some sort of alien from another planet kind of questions, you know, very like questions that would have quite obvious answers, but not if you're looking at it from the lens of this character, who clearly didn't see the world the way that most people saw it. But what's so there was that sort of aspect of the writing style that was really, really endearing. Loved it. What's going on is really observations about gender, specifically relationships between females and males, and expectations that mostly expectations about what a proper woman does, and actually kind of what a proper human does, but expectations about getting married, having babies, getting a proper job, moving on from a convenience store quite early on. You know, the fact that she's worked there for 18 years is a shock to everybody in the book. But she loves the shop. She loves the shop, and she feels happy and okay and settled and chilled and contented in the shop. And that's quite an important point, because actually it starts feeling uncomfortable when things change a little bit in her life and the shop isn't the support. I won't tell you why, because it would be too many spoilers, but it isn't supporting her in a way that it used to. That really genuinely feels uncomfortable, and that's a testament to the great writing and the way that you really feel for it. But what's going on is ultimately a feminist statement about expectations, mixed in with some really interesting things being said about male expectations by the main male character in the book, which massively reminded me of the one book I've read by Mishima as well. So I'll tackle the main character, Keiko's perspective first. Now I'll talk about this other guy. So her perspective is all wrapped around the fact that she is very happy in her life, but everyone else seems to have all these demands on her to get married and have children and all those things that obviously we've moved on from after lots of waves of feminism. It's like, well, women don't have to have a predictable, old-fashioned Victorian values kind of life anymore. But those are the expectations still on this character, and she's happy, but she keeps getting told she's not happy. She can't be happy. So Murata uses this book to explore that, and it's funny the way that it's done with some of the questions that Keiko asks, and it's definitely a rallying call for a more feminist approach to expectations for women, but it's done in a very gentle, funny, and quirky and endearing way, which is great, because I think if you go in relatively blind, you'll be sort of whisked off into this lovely state of mind that she's got. And it's very easy to read. It's very short as well. And I think one of the things I was going to say, that I think the length of the book actually helps out, because I think because of this particular unique tone that I think it's got, if it was double the length, I think it would wear off, and it wouldn't be able to sustain itself as far as how gripping it is. I really, I read this very quickly. I started it today and I've read it very quickly in kind of a couple of hours. And it is short, but even a short book, you might put it down and think, oh, I'm going to read the rest of it later, if it wasn't as gripping, and it really is gripping. So, the male character, I can't remember his name, I've only just finished it, but he keeps going on about that he wants to subvert the expectations that society puts on men and women, but specifically men. And ultimately, he's an utterly dislikable / despicable, lazy, demanding loser who's got this like really dodgy attitudes to women and relationships, and he's completely dislikable. But it's really interesting the way he talks, and he keeps using these excuses about values, gender values, and some sort of, he keeps talking about the Stone Age, that everything relates back to Stone Age values, and using that to justify his really convenient demands on other people, and not very many demands on himself. And that's kind of entertaining to read as well, because every time you're reading it, you're like you want to sort of shout at him, but Keiko reacts to him in a really funny way, and I won't give any spoilers about what she does with him, for him, or whatever, but it is really funny and quite an unusual thing. And then you wonder where that's going, and the way it ends is a brilliant ending that reinforces the beginning, but also kind of gives a final statement. And if you like, it might be the author's voice answering that stuff about what the guy was saying about these Stone Age values that he thought wouldn't ever change. And if you like, the book is saying at the end that things have changed or can change. So hopefully I'm giving you too many spoilers, but really is a great book. I was reading it just out of curiosity. I had heard that there was a feminist angle to it, but I had forgotten that. And I remembered that halfway through, thinking, oh yeah, that's what this was. Because I did go in pretty blind, because I'd forgotten what I knew about it. And I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a really good book. Very easy to read, very entertaining, very thought-provoking and funny. And I'm looking forward to reading The Earthlings now, which I also have, because I've just randomly found them both relatively cheap. So I knew about them, was going to get them, but I've got them now, and I'm very pleased I bought this one. So let me know if you've read this and what you thought of it. I think it's a great addition to this exploration I'm having, which is quite a gentle, slow exploration on Japanese fiction. Sayaka Murata, convenience store woman, awesome. Thanks a lot for watching. Please comment below on the book, and stay curious, everybody.
Paint me a picture